So Newsweek, they broke the story that the FBI has set up a special task force to go after Trump supporters, and people are barely even talking about it. I'm going to be talking about it here on the Morning Buzz. You bet I am. So the FBI, they created what's called a MAGA extremist category ahead of the 2024 election. They're labeling half of the country domestic terrorists. Defund them and shut them down. I've had it. Is anybody, are you shocked? I know you're not shocked that the FBI created a MAGA extremist category ahead of the 2024 election and not a far left extremist category. This is why, and this is why people think elections are rigged and stolen. It's because of things like this. This is also the kind of stuff that they do in dictatorship countries who want one party rule. My heart breaks for them. We will get legal revenge on everyone who has wronged President Donald Trump, and I'm very excited about that. Accountability won't escape these criminals. They will be held accountable. Let's take a listen to Donald Trump this morning.
But I'm here, stuck here, and I can't campaign. I'd rather be right now in Iowa. I'd rather be in New Hampshire or South Carolina or Ohio or a lot of other places, but I'm stuck here because I have a corrupt attorney general that communicates with the DOJ in Washington to keep me nice and busy because I'm leading Biden in the polls by a lot. That's all this is. This is election interference. They made up a fake case. They're fraudulent people. And the judge already knows what he's going to do. He's a Democrat judge. In all fairness to him, he has no choice. He has no choice. He's run by the Democrats. I know this city better than anybody knows this city. Nobody knows it like I do. He's a Democrat judge out of the clubhouses. He's controlled, and it's a shame. What's going on here is a shame. Our whole system is corrupt. This is corrupt. Atlanta is corrupt. And what's coming out of D.C. is corrupt. But this is a good one because
he says I'd rather be literally anywhere else except in New York City dealing with all of this. And of course, he's talking about the New York City Letitia James, the attorney general there. She's working with the DOJ. And the judge, he wrongfully said that, Mar-a-Lago was. I encourage you, leftists, if you are listening, I encourage you, go on Zillow. Look at the houses surrounding Mar-a-Lago. They have significantly less bedrooms. None of them are $18 million. They run like $300 million to $500 million. All of the surrounding houses there in Mar-a-Lago. The real estate experts testified. They said, look, it's worth way more than $18 million. The banks, there is no crime here. The banks had their loans paid. The loans were paid off with interest. There's no victim. There's no crime. It's incredible. There's also this DC rumor, and I've got the scoop here. DC Drano actually tweeted this out, and I was like, gosh, if there's any truth to this, this would be wild. And this kind of stuff happens all of the time because they're just petty people in Washington, D.C. These are rich men north of Richmond. And you shouldn't be surprised to hear that Kevin McCarthy let Pelosi and the ex-majority leader, his name is Steny Hoyer, and he let them keep their exclusive hideaway offices. We know that. And we know that this is possibly the reason why he let Pelosi and this ex-majority leader, Steny Hoyer, keep their offices. We're hearing it's because Kevin McCarthy had a bad secret deal with Pelosi, where she guaranteed enough Democrats for Kevin McCarthy if a motion to vacate ever came up. So if they ever voted to oust Kevin McCarthy, that she would whip votes in his favor on the Democrat side of the aisle, and that there would be enough Democrat votes to where he wouldn't be vacated. Well, Pelosi backstabbed him and didn't give Kevin McCarthy the votes. So Patrick McHenry, who is best buds with Kevin McCarthy, and he's now the interim speaker. We only have a few days. I'm sure it's going to take much longer to fill the speakership, but Patrick McHenry retaliated against Pelosi for backstabbing Kevin McCarthy for not getting those votes together when the motion to vacate came up. And now it's retaliation. And now Patrick McHenry is forcing Pelosi and Steny Hoyer out of those offices. This is what happens when you make deals with the devil, Kevin McCarthy. You're weak. Think about this. Pelosi impeached Trump twice. She removed Republicans from committees. This is all true. This is factual. She didn't allow the GOP. I remember very vividly talking with Rodney Davis about the January 6th committee. The GOP was not allowed to pick representatives to serve on the J6 committee. She forced masks and metal detectors. And McCarthy says that he preserved tradition by allowing Pelosi to keep her hideaway office. This is weak. This is corruption. What do you mean, preserve tradition? Pelosi did everything but tradition while she was House Speaker. She removed Republicans from committees. Nobody's ever done that. She didn't allow the GOP to pick representatives to serve on the J6 committee. Mike Bost, what a rhino. Darren Bailey's running against him in the Congressional District 12. And I'm going to get to his statement here. But first, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. I'm Kat Peterson. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got so much to get to today, and I just wanted to jump out the gate and tell you a lot about what's going on. They're really ramping up attacks against Trump supporters. The FBI has created a category called MAGA extremists or MAGA domestic terrorists, and they're working on finding you, and they're working on bringing you down if you are a so-called MAGA Republican. And I got to get to this statement here, Mike Bost made. It's quite incredible. You guys can see me live in the studio. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Mike Bost, he's congressman, 12th district here in Illinois. There's only a few congressmen. We used to have more, but there's been a mass exodus from Illinois, and we had to nix one congressman because, we lost so much population over the past year. But Mike Bost, he says, for those who are celebrating what occurred in the House yesterday, Congress is now non-functional. And I don't mean functioning poorly or focused on the wrong agenda. I mean, it's literally not functioning. The fight to secure our southern border, restore fiscal sanity, and hold the Biden family accountable through the impeachment inquiry have all come to a screeching halt. On top of that, the vacancy of the speaker poses a risk to our national security and leaves us vulnerable to our adversaries. Don't listen to these failed political candidates sitting on the sidelines telling you that this is great for our country. They want to mislead you because I have all of the answers. Mr. Boss, Daddy Boss, I'm the government and I have all of the answers. Don't listen to these other representatives. I am the purveyor of truth and I have all the answers. This completely derails the conservative agenda. I'm a governing conservative. No, you're not. You voted for. Conservative means that you don't vote for $3 billion worth of supplement aid to go to Ukraine there, Mike Bost, you idiot. And my focus continues to be delivering results for the people of Southern Illinois. Shut up. It's so ridiculous. Did you not just... Kevin McCarthy was letting Nancy Pelosi run things. She wasn't even out of the office for the Speaker of the House office. She wasn't even out of there. She was running the show. This was a good thing. Yesterday, I was a little worried about it, but I'm excited because I think Donald Trump could possibly be the House Speaker. What? That would be pretty cool. I really want to see... I don't really like Jim Jordan all that much. I think he's a little bit of an institutionalist. I don't know. Byron Donalds, Jim Jordan, I think they would both be just fine. But really, I think Donald Trump should be the House Speaker. What? Speaker of the House? Donald Trump? Speaker Trump just has a nice ring to it, wouldn't you say? All right, what are we talking about in the 6 o'clock hour? We've got so much to cover. I haven't even gotten to what I've planned. I was just scrolling on Twitter and I found all of this stuff. I was like, whoa, uh, so much happening. But Aaron Rodgers, he just completely destroys Travis Kelce where it hurts. And he calls Taylor Swift's boyfriend Mr. Pfizer, which I think is quite funny. I've always liked Aaron Rodgers. So next, I do have to tell you about Biden pushing this $9 billion in student loan forgiveness after the Supreme Court rejected. The Supreme Court rejected this debt relief plan, and Joe Biden is just like, screw you, Supreme Court. I'm going to do what I want. And then a little bit later, Trump, on running for speaker, he says, if I can help them in the process of running, I'll do it. Ooh, wouldn't that make I can hear the leftist heads just popping. They're exploding. As always, see me live in the studio. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble at Cities 92.9. You can text me at 309-451-9299. Be a part of the show. And that buzzline is brought to you by the Princeton Gun Show. From modern to black powder hunting rifles, firearms, you guys can go get your guns at the Princeton Gun Show. That's October 28th and 29th. And then they have another one in November. Find more details at our Facebook page. So here we go. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. The people who don't like football that work for the NFL are all about turning the league into some sort of Taylor Swift convention. And surprisingly, there are still football people out there talking about, oh, I don't know football and not Taylor Swift. People like this Pat McAfee. Now, I don't watch his show, but I've heard on a regular basis. I catch clips of it. And Aaron Rodgers, they reviewed the football game that Taylor was at. She was out. She was at this football game, but they reviewed the football game and they didn't review the fact that Taylor was there watching her boyfriend. So a lot of sports commentators are pushing uh, this celebrity romance, and I think that there's a reason why for that. But they're pushing the celebrity romance very, very hard with the NFL right now. Maybe it's perhaps it's because people don't watch the NFL anymore and they need clicks. And Taylor Swift is popular and she gets clicks. I don't know, but there's still some people out there who are talking about football when it comes to these football games. The Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce, if you guys didn't know, is dating, I believe, Taylor Swift. So the Jets almost pulled off an upset against the Chiefs, and would have if the refs didn't want Taylor Swift tickets, probably. But Rodgers, he's out on an injury. That's his team now. He's happy with how his team performed against the Kansas City Chiefs, and especially the way they shut Taylor's future ex-boyfriend down. So he's very happy that the Jets shut him down. Um, and Rodgers found something more degrading to call Kelce other than, Taylor's future ex-boyfriend. So we're going to play this for you. He was on the Pat McAfee show here. We'll take a listen. Take a listen to what Aaron Rodgers calls Travis Kelce. Here we go.
Didn't have a crazy game, and Mr. Pfizer, we kind of shut him down a little bit. He didn't have his like crazy impact game. Obviously, he had some yards and stuff, but I felt like for the most part, we played really tough on defense, especially the last three quarters, and didn't have a crazy game. And Mr. Pfizer, we kind of shut him.
Mr. Pfizer. That's so funny. He calls him Mr. Pfizer. I don't know if you know this, but Aaron Rodgers, he's not a fan of big pharma or Fauci. He doesn't like the Fauci ouchie. Kelce, on the other hand, loves big pharma, so much so that he's their new spokesperson for Pfizer. Kelce has been shilling for Pfizer the same way he shills for. Let me check my notes here. Yep, he shills for Bud Light as well. I'm kind of curious. What's going to take out Travis Kelce's heart first? Is it going to be the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, or is it going to be Taylor Swift who just completely destroys his heart? I don't know. It's a toss up. Either way, he's getting his heart broken and busted because if the COVID vaccine isn't going to do it first, Taylor Swift will. But the partnership with Pfizer is the saddest part about this, is because had Kelce been working with the Biden administration on this rather than, um, you know, going to Pfizer directly, it would have been a totally different thing. It would have been pathetic, but pathetic in a way that celebrities always join Democrats kind of way. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, yeah, celebrities love Democrats for some odd reason. But Kelsey went directly to Pfizer and cut an ad directly for Pfizer, which means he's getting him a big fat check for uh, being a spokesperson for Pfizer. So I think this is all fake. I don't think that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are really actually a couple or an item. I think that the NFL could be doing this for clicks because nobody watches the NFL because it's woke and they've lost a lot of their fans because they've gone woke. My dad, me, we don't watch football anymore. We watch college football, and Travis Kelce, he's always been a beta. He's done these COVID vaccines for vaccine commercials for Pfizer. He's done Bud Light commercials post Dylan Mulvaney. So he's always been a bit of a beta. So Taylor Swift sits sitting next to Travis's mom, and she's cheering on the Kansas City Chiefs. That's when the first game happened. It was at the Bears game. But they're evidently dating now. I don't think that that's true. I don't think they're actually dating. I think that this is, you know, marketing agents trying to push them together. And uh, I wouldn't be shocked if Taylor Swift comes out and endorses Joe Biden. But romances, the leftist media, the government, they love to push these because politicians use them as a way to neutralize political dissent. Okay, and it's through a policy of bread and circuses. If we keep the people entertained with the celebrity romance, everything's going to be fine. The FBI, the federal government, we can create a category and label, oh, I don't know, half the country domestic terrorists and get away with it because we've neutralized the political dissent through this celebrity romance. 309-451-9299. I've got to take a quick break, but coming up, we will be talking about how Joe Biden, pretty much flipped off the Supreme Court by giving out all of this aid, student forgiveness loans, $9 billion. This was after the Supreme Court has rejected this debt relief plan. He's going against the Supreme Court. This is totally unprecedented. I don't know why people aren't talking about this. We'll talk about it here next on The Buzz. Coming up, President Donald Trump running for speaker. He says, if I can help them in the process of running, I'll do it. What? That would be so cool. We'll be talking about that here coming up in just a bit. Plus, Joe Biden pushing this $9 billion in student loan forgiveness. I knew that he had already done this because I've talked to people who have received that forgiveness already. So it's not anything new. Uh, but nobody's talking about how he actually went up against the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court actually rejected this debt relief plan, but he's going ahead and doing it anyway because Joe Biden does what he wants because he's a dictator. So we're going to be talking about that. But first, I did want to do this cute little news story. I think that it's a happy news story and it's good for our Thursday morning, 31 minutes after the 6 o'clock hour. Adam Wainwright is a baseball player who planned his entire 18 career, or played his entire 18-year career with the St. Louis Cardinals. Okay, so he's been a baseball player for quite some time, 18 years. He's played with the St. Louis Cardinals for that entire time, and he finally retired after this season. And he was celebrated by the Cardinals and their fans in a very special way. So, about a year ago, Adam announced that he was going to be retiring, and he promised his kids that he would allow them to get a dog after his last game. Okay, so they said, "All right, after I'm good and retired, then I'm gonna let you guys get a dog." His kids are gonna have this puppy. Adam has a big family. He's got 4 daughters and a son. So on his last day of work, the Cardinals arranged for his family to attend this retirement ceremony, and they had a fun surprise planned. You see where this is going? Okay. During the event, the team presented Adam and his family with this adorable puppy as a going away gift. Now that Adam's baseball career is over, he can now shift his focus on other things, including work with his charity foundation. He's got a charity foundation. He's going to spend some extra time playing guitar and, of course, puppy potty training, which can be tough sometimes, especially if it's a little dog. This dog is pretty cute, though. It's a very adorable little puppy. It's like if I had to guess, it's like a poodle mix. It's it's really cute. I like the dog. We're gonna be back getting into the news. Have you guys heard this is a big deal? The FBI, uh, Newsweek actually broke the story that the FBI has set up a special task force to go after you, Trump supporters, and these people are barely talking about it. Mainstream media is not talking about it. You're going to hear it here first. The FBI created a MAGA extremist category ahead of the 2024 election. They're labeling half of the country as domestic terrorists. We need to defund the FBI. We need to shut them down. We're going to come back talking a little bit about Joe Biden and the student loan debt relief program that the Supreme Court said, well, that's unconstitutional. You can't do that, Joe. Joe said, I got hairy legs. Good morning, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We're going to get to your comments here. The leftist followers of cities love corruption. Yes, they get a perverse kind of pleasure from it. Yes, yeah, they love corruption. All of the leftists, they love corruption. They love chaos. And what's really sad is in recent weeks, and specifically this week, we've seen about 6 prominent leftists, activists die, which is tragic, but also ironic because it's like you support these policies and then these policies wind up being the reason for your literal demise, for your death. So this one case where we had Ryan, I forget his last name. Ryan, he was a leftist activist. He worked for a climate activist group in New York, in Brooklyn, I believe it was. Where he got stabbed um, by this random stranger, and this random stranger was being disorderly, started knocking down scooters and everything, and he and his girlfriend, his Antifa girlfriend, I might add, were walking toward this disorderly man. and they went towards the danger. It's quite incredible. Friends of Ryan, this far left activist out of New York, he was pretty prominent leftist. Um, he all of his friends are saying that, this killer of his was a victim of the system. So friends of Ryan are victimizing the killer for killing Ryan. That makes a whole lot of sense. If you're watching, go ahead, smash the like button. We're going to be back in just a little bit. So you guys have heard the scoop, I'm sure. The DC rumor scoop. Were you surprised to hear that Kevin McCarthy let Nancy Pelosi and the ex-majority leader, Steny Hoyer, keep their exclusive hideaway office? Yes, he let Nancy Pelosi keep her hideaway office, her little Speaker of the House office. Now I'm hearing And I've got this from DC Drainer. His sources are telling him that, hey, this is because Kevin McCarthy actually had a secret deal with Nancy Pelosi, and she guaranteed that enough Democrats would vote for Kevin McCarthy if a motion to vacate ever came up. They would vote in favor of Kevin McCarthy staying in that House Speaker role. So obviously that didn't happen. There was not enough Democrats to stop Kevin McCarthy from being vacated. So that means Pelosi backstabbed him and didn't give Kevin McCarthy the votes. She didn't whip the votes. So guess what happens? Patrick McHenry, who's the interim Speaker of the House, he's best buds with Kevin McCarthy. Patrick McHenry is going to be, well, I think he retaliated by forcing Pelosi. That was his first order of business, was forcing Pelosi and Steny Hoyer out of those offices. This is what happens when you make deals with the devil. Kevin McCarthy, you're weak. Think about this for a second. So Nancy Pelosi, she impeached Donald Trump twice. Okay, she removed Republicans from committees. That's unprecedented. She didn't allow the GOP to pick representatives to serve on the J6 committee. She forced masks, COVID-19 masks, and metal detectors uh, for them to go in for them to go in and conduct business. And Kevin McCarthy, when asked, "Hey, why did you let Pelosi keep her office?" He said that it was because he wanted to preserve tradition by allowing Pelosi to keep her hideaway office. Preserve tradition? Are you kidding me? Pelosi's anything but traditional. You're weak. You're corrupt, Kevin. Come on. Mike Boss, he's whining on Twitter, of course. He's running in the 12th congressional district in Southern Illinois. Darren Bailey is opposing him. And he's getting out there and he's like, our Congress is now non functional. And I don't mean functioning poorly or focused on the wrong agenda. I mean literally not functioning. Everything's coming to a screeching halt. Shut up, Mike. We all know that you voted for the Ukraine aid supplement packages, $3 billion worth, and then you came out just recently after this continuing resolution and said, oh, I voted against Ukraine spending. You can't sit there and tout that you voted against Ukraine spending when you literally every other spending package you were for. Okay, now all of a sudden it's too much money. $135 billion later. Come on, Mike. I see right through your baloney. You can't fool me. Okay, let's get into the $9 billion the Biden administration just pissed away. So these are $9 billion worth of student loan forgiveness. Okay, now the money's going to help 125,000 Americans pay off debts that they've incurred while receiving post-secondary education. So this is like master's degrees, this is bachelor's degrees, things like that. Not associate's degrees. These are uh, post-secondary education. Now, the move comes as this pandemic era pause on student loan payments comes to an end. So now people are forced to begin making payments on those student loans. Uh, and this is what Joe Biden said on Twitter. Is it okay if I call it Twitter? I'm just going to call it Twitter. You guys know what I mean when I say Twitter. X, Twitter, same thing. I promised you that my administration would continue to use every tool at our disposal to ease the burden of student loan debt so more Americans can be free to achieve their dreams. This is what he posted on Twitter. Propaganda. Uh, because we've talked about this before. I shouldn't have to pay for your student loans. You shouldn't have to pay for my student loans. We should all pay for our own individual student loans. We should not put that burden on the taxpayers. For one, it doesn't make sense that I pay for your gender studies degree. I don't know you. I don't care, and I don't want to pay for your gender studies degree, Becky. But also, in the end, this is not going to help. Okay, this is not going to help the cost of college come down. This isn't going to. That's the problem, is that we've inflated the cost of going to college. Like everything else, it's just been inflated. We've talked about that before, the inflation issue. Just look at Argentina. Tucker Carlson's podcast, his episode about Argentina, how it takes like a barrel of currency, their cash, takes like a whole wheelbarrow to buy like something like an apple. So their currency is so devalued. And that's the problem over the years. College should never have gotten this expensive, but we've devalued the dollar. That's why it's as expensive as it is. That's why eggs are like they are. That's why things are uh, just you used to buy bread for a nickel. Okay, that we've devalued the dollar. That's why college is the way it is. We need to uh, eh, bring value back to the dollar, the U.S. dollar. Anyway, so the latest $9 billion will be split into three different parts. So I'm going to break this down for you. Because it might be you. I've already got friends who have received emails before, and they emails from Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden, and they said, "Hey, we forgave your student loan debt." So this $9 billion is already out there. It's already circulating. Likely, if you haven't gotten an email, you're going to probably find a check in the mail, and this check is going to forgive your student loan debt. But there's three different moving parts to this. So $9 billion, 5.2 billion of it going to 53,000 borrowers via the public service loan forgiveness programs. $1.2 billion of it are going to 22,000 borrowers who have disabilities. And then $2.8 billion are going to 51,000 borrowers who, via fixes to income driven repayment. So that's most likely you. If you haven't been paying on your student loans, or if you pay based off of income driven student loans and you haven't been able to pay those for more than like 20 years, then you're just going to get that student loan debt forgiven. Okay. So made 20 years or more of payments, but never got the relief that they were entitled to. That's what the White House describes that those 51,000 borrowers. So if you've been paying on your student loans a long time and it's income fixed, so your payments are based off of your income and you've been paying on it for more than 20 years, then likely you're going to have the remaining of it forgiven. Joe Biden defended his decision to help students pay off debts by suggesting that higher education should be a ticket to the middle class and not a burden that weighs on families. The president's original plan to cancel student loan debt for tens of millions of dollars was struck down by the Supreme Court earlier this year. It was just tens of millions of dollars. We're looking at 9 billion with a B. So not only did he say, "Screw you, Supreme Court," he said, "Screw you, Supreme Court. I'm going to pass a student loan debt forgiveness program that far surpasses what was already before you in the Supreme Court." Donald Trump was asked whether he would be considering holding the position of House Speaker following the ousting of Kevin McCarthy. We're going to get to that here in just a little bit, but I'm curious, what do you think about the student loan forgiveness? What do you think about that? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's right? What should we do about the cost of college? Call me at 309-451-9299. We got to take a quick break. I'll be back on the other side. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. And folks, be sure to text me at 309-451-9299. You guys can actually text that line. Text the word blue, BLUE, and you're going to score a pair of tickets if you're the first person to text in this keyword to 309-451-9299. So on October 7th in Paxton, Illinois, there's going to be a fellow. His name is, you might know him, Jared Neiman. He's taking on Back the Badge Fest in 2023. Now, what is Back the Badge Fest? Well, the 1078 Foundation and the Never Forgotten Services are excited to announce this headliner. His name's Jared Neiman. He's got all kinds of really cool songs. I like Tequila Kisses, Lover Lover, I Can Drink to That All Night, Ghost Rider. These are really cool songs. And he's going to be headlining the fundraiser this year. Now, this fundraiser, these folks at the 1078 and Never Forgotten Services, they're trying to work with community relationships between police officers and the community, and they're helping officers locally in central Illinois. So this is a great cause, and you're going to get to go for free because you're going to score a pair of tickets to the concert. That's Jared Neiman. Text the word blue, BLUE, to 309-451-9299. Gonna get to some of your text here. When interests on student loans, okay, so when the interest on the student loan was waived, my wife and I both doubled down our payments. Mine is paid off, and she still owes a significant amount. She holds a master's degree in child's development. I feel we took the smart path, but if they're handing out free money, shoot, I'll take it. We're 59 and 48 years old, respectively. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that you don't take it. Okay, so that's not that's not at all what I'm saying. Of course, the government is going to be giving you all of this money, and likely your wife is going to qualify, especially if you guys have been paying on it for quite some time. If it's over 20 years, she's likely going to get those payments. I know people who have already gotten their payments. It's kind of weird, the email that they send. It's almost like, hey, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's the reason why you're getting free money. It's like a campaign ad. They're buying you off. They want to buy your vote. And here, look, I understand, but why should that be on taxpayers to pay your student loans? Okay, I have to pay my student loans and pay off mine, and you should have to pay off yours. The point is, college shouldn't cost as much as it does. It just shouldn't. And there's a way to fix that, and that's by not inflating the market. That's by giving value back to our dollar. It never used to be that expensive. Okay. It never used to be $25,000 a year to go to college. It never used to be six, I don't know how much eggs are now, $6 a carton for eggs. Never used to be that way. We've got to stop spending and inflating the economy and devaluing the dollar and bring those college costs down, along with costs on everything. Everything needs to come down. And the $3 billion aid supplement packages to Ukraine definitely doesn't help, Joey. And you see, Democrats, Republicans, we all kind of want the same thing. We want college to be cheaper. We all want college to be cheaper, but we have different ways of getting there. And I'm just going to be honest with you. The conservative way, the Republican way, that is the only way that this is going to work. All right, I'm going to be back here on the Morning Buzz. You can text me at 309-451-9299. Text the word blue to win some tickets to the concert and see Jared Neiman live in Paxton, Illinois. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much. If you guys are watching, go ahead and smash that like button. We're going to be back talking about a few things. Now, one thing that I do want to get to is Donald Trump saying that he was going to possibly be speaker. If Donald Trump was speaker, he'd be able to subpoena the DOJ, the crooks who are prosecuting him right now and persecuting him. He'd cut off funding to the FBI. that raided his house and many other Trump supporters' house, and currently have put Trump supporters in a category of domestic terrorism, and they're looking to destroy MAGA Republicans and people who support Trump. They're making half of the country out to be these domestic terrorists, and they're just not. Okay, so he'd cut off funding to the FBI. He could impeach Joe Biden. He could cut off funding to Ukraine, $135 billion, which I've told you in the past. When you break that down, we could give $50 million per household to those affected by the wildfires in Maui. We could give $2 million to every single homeless veteran here in America. We could make homeless veterans millionaires overnight with that kind of money. $135 billion. We need to cut the funding off. And have you seen Joe Biden is like super quick to get out there and reassure Zelensky that the funding will continue? It's probably because Zelensky in The Economist, there's an interview done where he talks about these Ukrainians, these refugees who sought refuge in Western Europe. And he goes, hey, those Ukrainians who sought refuge in your country, yeah, we thank you for letting them letting them reside there. But also, if you stop giving us funding, there's no telling what those Ukrainians will do. Yes. So he basically like blackmailed, I guess, or threatened uh, a European leader. So we've got to cut the funding off. Trump, if he was speaker, he could impeach Mayorkas, Garland, Christopher Wray. He'd be the most powerful man in America. And I mean, come on, Trump as speaker, C-SPAN would have record ratings for sure. And with the writer's strike having slowed down production timeliness, we need some TV this winter, okay? So there's a writer strike out there, and there's not going to be some good TV. We need some good TV, and I think Trump as speaker would definitely make C-SPAN exciting to watch. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit. Trump as speaker, is that possible? There is a clip out there. Steve Bannon actually lays it out. There's a 100-day plan where Donald Trump could become speaker. He can be both. He can be both the speaker and the president in 2024. That would be pretty cool. So we're going to talk also a little bit about this Army missing its recruitment goals again. They've announced these sweeping reforms that I don't think are going to fix the problem of missing your recruiting goal. So we're going to talk about the Army missing their recruiting goal. Plus, tenant from hell refuses to pay for this luxury Airbnb, and she won't leave after 540 days unless her demands are met. So she wants to be paid. Otherwise, she's not leaving. So she wants to be paid like a relocation fee. And believe it or not, this is straight out of socialism. They are forcing the landlord, the guy who actually owns the unit, uh, to pay her like close to $100,000 um, for her to relocate. She's squatting in his place and she won't leave. This is a tenant from hell. So we're going to talk about that here just a little bit. If you're watching, go ahead, smash the like button. And did you guys hear also that the Trump supporters, this is big news today. Newsweek broke a story that the FBI set up a special task force to go after Trump supporters, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody on MSNBC, ABC. Um, I'm going to talk about it. Sure. And I'm not shocked. No one should be shocked that the FBI created a MAGA extremist category ahead of the 2024 election, and they didn't create a far left extremist category. And this is why people think that elections are stolen and rigged. Okay, because they do stuff like this. And this is the kind of stuff that dictatorship countries do. They want one party rule. They want the uniparty to be in full power. And the FBI, they created a MAGA extremist category. We need to defund them, and we need to defund them now. Also, a little bit later, we're going to be talking about how Aaron Rodgers just destroyed Travis Kelce and hit him where it hurts the most. Uh, he didn't just call him Taylor Swift's boyfriend, but he called him Mr. Pfizer. Aaron Rodgers did. Mr. Pfizer, of course, because we know Travis Kelce is a spokesperson for Pfizer and got the jab. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going to break his heart first? Is it going to be Taylor Swift or is it going to be the jab? Because either way, his heart is toast. He's going to probably get some mitocarditis. But we'll be back. Smash that like button for me. If you're watching, go ahead, smash the like button. That would greatly help me out. We're back in 15. Good morning. Hey, this is the morning buzz. And did you hear the DC rumor scoop? So I got to lay this out for you. This is actually incredible. We got it from DC Drano, and his sources are telling him that Kevin McCarthy let Nancy Pelosi and this ex majority leader, Steny Hoyer, keep their exclusive hideaway offices. So they have these offices in Washington, D.C., they're gorgeous offices, and Kevin McCarthy let Nancy Pelosi keep hers. And I know what you're thinking to yourself, oh, why would he do that? Well, we're hearing it's because Kevin McCarthy actually made a secret little deal with Nancy Pelosi. She guaranteed enough Democrat votes for Kevin McCarthy if a motion to vacate ever came up. So obviously, the motion to vacate came up and he didn't have the Democrat votes. So Pelosi backstabbed him and didn't give Kevin McCarthy the votes. So what does Patrick McHenry do? Patrick McHenry is pals with Kevin McCarthy. He's the interim speaker for right now. He retaliates and he forces Nancy Pelosi to get out of that office and Steny Hoyer, who's the ex majority leader, to get out of the office. This is what happens when you make deals with the devil. Kevin, I don't know why he made a deal with the devil. Nancy Pelosi, she impeached Donald Trump twice. She removed Republicans from committees. She didn't allow the GOP to select representatives to serve on the J6 committee. And she forced masks and metal detectors. And at the end of the day, what McCarthy did, he said, well, I let her keep her office because I wanted to preserve tradition. Are you kidding me with all of that right now, Kevin? Are you kidding me? Preserve tradition by allowing Nancy Pelosi to keep her office. She does everything but tradition. You're weak, you're corrupt. We're going to talk a little bit about Trump possibly becoming speaker. That would be pretty cool. That's what I want to see happen. But did you guys hear? I need to tell you this. This is some local news. Ray Estrada, he was running against Eric Swarnson. Ray Estrada has announced that he will not be running against Eric Swarnson anymore in that the 17th congressional district. So Ray Estrada announced his withdrawal from the Republican primary in the Illinois 17th congressional district. I really liked Ray Estrada. It saddens me that he withdrew from consideration, but I don't know if there's any other candidate. I haven't heard of any other candidate. I'm going to do some digging uh, for the 17th congressional district in Illinois, but we all know that Eric Swarnson, that is not a good that is not a good pick for that district. That's my district. And I've had Ray Estrada on the program before. I thought he was gonna make a great congressman. I thought he was gonna be able to win, but I'm very saddened to hear that. But hopefully there is somebody, a conservative, who steps up and runs against Eric Swarnson because, whew, boy, we don't need him. He's that gay weatherman. When I say gay weatherman, you know exactly who I'm talking about. He's like a clown, I swear. It wouldn't be shocked if he actually has like this light up tie or like clown shoes and one of those like flower boutonnieres where that like squirt water. This guy is ridiculous. So we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But first, let's talk about President Donald Trump possibly running for speaker. That would be pretty cool. So Donald Trump was asked whether he would be interested in holding this open position for speaker. And what he said was kind of interesting. Trump said that a lot of people have been asking him about it, and he goes, "Look, if they need help with running, I guess I'm going to have to step up." So let's take a listen to exactly what Trump said on the Buzz the Morning Buzz. Here we go.
A lot of people have been calling me about Speaker. All I can say is we'll do whatever's best for the country and for the Republican Party. Would you take a job? People. Would you take to say we have some great people. Would you take the job? A lot of people have asked me about it. I'm focused. We're leading. I don't know you. I'm sure you don't read too much in the papers, but we're leading by like 50 points for president. My focus is totally on that. If I can help them during the process, I would do it. But we have some great people in the Republican Party that could do a great job as Speaker.
So he says we have great people in the Republican Party, and he goes, a lot of people have been asking me about becoming Speaker. I'm 40, 50 points ahead in the presidential race, but if I can help them in the process of running, I'll do it. What? So does that mean you'll actually run for Speaker? Come on. Yes. I'd be so for it. The reporter asked him, hey, would you take the job? And that was his answer. He goes, I'll have to help him with running if it comes down to that. So if Trump was Speaker, here's what he could do. He'd be able to subpoena the DOJ crooks who are persecuting him right now, political persecution. He'd be able to go after them and subpoena them, and he'd be able to dig in and investigate. Specifically, I would love to see him investigate the FBI for creating this MAGA Trump supporter extremist category. He'd cut off funding for the FBI that raided his house and has raided many Trump supporters' houses. Trump supporters, not even really Trump supporters, just Republicans. Not even Republicans, conservatives, people who just don't think like they do, the FBI. So he'd cut off funding for the FBI. He could impeach Joe Biden. He could impeach Mayorkas, Garland, Christopher Wray. He'd be the most powerful man if he was the Speaker of the House currently. Now, look, you're like, Kat, but he's supposed to be president. Why would you not want him to be president? He can do both. Relax. He can run for the presidency and also be the speaker at the same time. Okay, so it's not like he can't do both. And come on, admit it. Trump as speaker would give C-SPAN record ratings. And with the writers on strike and everything, I'm looking for some good TV this winter. And come on, I would really like to see Trump as speaker, and C-SPAN, they would get some crazy ratings. So let's take a listen here to Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon actually, he says he kind of lays out a plan. It's a 100-day plan for the ex-president to take the speaker gavel. And I want to play what Steve Bannon shares. I think that this is actually a really good plan. I don't think anybody else can do what Donald Trump would do in that role. Let's take a listen.
And set up the committees. How about this? 100 days to save America. And in that 100 days, Donald J. Trump will be voted tonight or tomorrow to be Speaker of the House. And the Republicans say we're going to do it for 100 days. And in the 100 days, you get everything set up, all the investigation set up, and Trump begins the negotiations now. Not when they're running out of money. They said, the crisis is going to hit us in the summer or fall. Well, that's where they're out of cash, and I can put the gun to your head. We're out of cash. The full faith and credit got to do it. No, let's start it now. We know what this is about. You're not going to hide anymore, and you're not going to lie anymore, and you're not going to spin anymore. And if you want somebody in the room that understands how to do these types of negotiations, his entire professional career is doing that, is Donald J. Trump. 100 days. Let's get him in the room, and let's do the debt ceiling. Let's do let's do the spending. Let's talk about the madness, and let's talk about the Federal Reserve. Who knows more about money or interest rates than Donald Trump? Right now, we're on the verge of spending $1 trillion on interest a year. $1 trillion a year, bigger than defense budget. You want to talk about a national security problem? You want to talk running around? We got national security. Got to get Kevin McCarthy right now because there's a national security problem. We got all those guys, the military veterans. I honor their service. A national security issue. National security. Here's the national security issue. You're spending $1 trillion a year more in the defense budget, which is out of control, on interest. That's a national security problem. And I got a solution. And tell me anybody's got a better solution for right now, for this afternoon. Hey, how about this? 100 days of Donald Trump. Let's get him in the room.
Let's get him in the room. I would love to see it. Now, actually, Steve Bannon came up with this 100-day plan back in January when Kevin McCarthy, I think it took like 15 votes for him to eventually become the Speaker of the House. I would love to see this happen right now. Let's get him in the room. Who knows interest rates better than Donald Trump? Who knows money better than Donald Trump? Who knows the art of the deal better than Donald Trump? I'm telling you right now, this is the solution. And yeah, Jim Jordan's great. Byron Donalds is great. We are at a point, and I think that the 2020 election is going to be a flashpoint. The news coming out about the FBI putting you on a list. You voted for Donald Trump, right? Say you voted for Donald Trump in 2020. If you voted for Donald Trump, 81 million people are going to be labeled domestic terrorists in this country. We need to defund them. We need to shut them down. The FBI is doing this. Newsweek broke that story today. They set up a special task force to go after Trump supporters, and we're not even talking about it. 81 million people, half of the country. How come there's not a far left extremist category ahead of the 2020 election or 2024 election? How come? This is the kind of stuff that dictators do in dictatorship countries. They want one party rule. I'm all for a Speaker Trump. I think that it's got a nice ring to it, and I want to see it happen. And Mike Boss is out there tweeting this morning. He's like, it's a non-functioning Congress, and he's like, national security. Shut up. Shut up. You know what's bad for national security? The recruiting numbers in the military are down. That's what's bad for national security. So let's get into that story. The Army missing their recruiting goal again. And they're announcing these sweeping reforms that I don't think are going to fix the problem. But the United States Army announced that they're going to be making sweeping changes to its recruiting enterprise after struggling to meet their goal of 452,000 active duty soldiers. So they're not making their goal. You're supposed to get 452,000 active duty soldiers. They're nowhere near that. The Army announced Tuesday that they plan to roll out several key recruiting reforms to attract more annual contracts. These recommendations resulted from a study of the Army recruiting over the past 25 years. So they're doing a complete overhaul. They're going to try to get more people. Quote, the competition for talented Americans is fierce, and it is fundamentally different than what it was 50 or even 20 years ago. This is what Secretary Wormuth said. So she's in the military. She deals with the recruiting. Then she goes on. She says, understanding that reality is key to designing new practices that will make us more attractive and compelling career choice for young Americans. Hey, this isn't a career choice. This is signing your name on a dotted line and serving your country. I wonder why the Army is having trouble recruiting members. I wonder why. Could it be because it has been consumed by a bunch of woke infested garbage? Could it be that? Could it be? And what do they expect when you fire a bunch of people for not getting the Fauci ouchie? Only 43 of the more than 8,000 discharged from the U.S. military for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine have actually rejoined. So only 43 of the 8,000 that were discharged because they refused the COVID-19 vaccine. About 17,000 service members ultimately refused to take the vaccine, according to some reports. So 17,000. But it's a recruiting problem, they say. No, I don't think so. It's definitely, it couldn't be that the military leaders embrace this woke diversity and the transgender policies and ideology. Is that corroding recruiting efforts? Could it? Could it be corroding these recruiting efforts, the trans ideology, the diversity? The military spending is spending crucial time and money on these woke projects as they undermine the readiness of our country's defense system. Okay, who wants to go serve in the military if our defense system is just in shambles? And we're so focused on this woke stuff. If you don't believe me, just listen to the Army's DEI mission statement. Quote, build and sustain Army readiness by developing and implementing a strategic plan to advance DEI across the total force and establish the Army as a global leader in DEI. I'm sorry, I thought the Army was supposed to defend the country. I'm sorry that what? You're supposed to be a global leader in DEI? DEI training is essentially it advances people on criteria other than competence and their ability to carry out a mission. That's what DEI is. If you're black, great, you're going to move up. If you're black and lesbian, oh boy, you're going to move up a couple of positions. If you're black, lesbian, and you identify as a dog, oh boy, forget about it. You're going to be the boss. You're going to be the CEO of the company. Okay, that's what DEI is. And it's honestly embarrassing. It's very embarrassing. The military is always lowering their physical fitness standards, by the way, to try to meet these recruitment numbers because it's so abysmal. Before lowering their standards, about 44% of women failed the test from October 2020 to April 2021. The physical test that I'm talking about, compared that to the 7% of men. So I'm quoting the secretary. Her name is, she's an Army secretary, Christine Warmuth. She says, quote, I also have concerns, obviously, about the implications of the test for our ability to continue to retain women, which we obviously want to do. So they're going to continue to lower the standards of this physical test, and we aren't going to have physically fit people defending the country. But apparently, they're not a woke army. Okay. They're not a woke army. Get that out of your head. Here's Chip Roy, actually. He mocked the military. And I'm not for mocking the military, but what we've got now is beyond recognizable. And I think that veterans can see that. So here's Chip Roy. I mean, mocking this woke military. That's what he's doing. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
On social media, the Marines tweeted a Pride Month image with the rainbow-tipped bullets on a Marine helmet featuring the words, proud to serve. I'm sure the Chinese military is quaking in its boots with the rainbow-tipped bullets being tweeted around the world. The Air Force tweeted an image with the silhouette of an airman saluting in front of a pride flag. The Navy changes their logo on social media to ships and aircraft in front of a rainbow flag. Again, that's the flag right there. Red, white, and blue. That is the flag. No other flag. When we're talking about what the United States military should be standing in front of and should be projecting. I have very few constituents who disagree with this sentiment, that we should be focused on having a military that is designed to, when called upon, to blow stuff up and kill people in defense of this country as needed, and to be the best fighting force to accomplish that objective in the world, and to be trained and to have a clear mission. And oh, by the way, side note, while I'm sitting here on the floor talking about the Department of Defense appropriations, not engaged in endless conflict without congressional engagement in terms of authorizations of the use of military force, which, by the way, we were supposed to be addressing by the end of this month.
There's Chip Roy. I like how he talked about that as well. So, I mean, we've got boots on the ground in Ukraine. There's no doubt about that. And there was no congressional, you're supposed to involve Congress when you do that kind of stuff. You know, Congress can be the only ones that declare war. If we're aiding and we've got boots on the ground, special forces in Ukraine, that's kind of messed up that they didn't involve Congress. But back to the woke army. This is the woman that I've been talking about. She's the Army Secretary, Christine Warmuth. She told reporters back in June, we are ready. We are a ready army and we're not a woke army. She goes, what I'm trying to talk about now is how that drip, drip, drip of criticism about the woke military is having some counterproductive effects on recruiting. That's what she's talking about. Are you sure about that? Is it the as telling you that it's a woke military that's the issue? That's why you're having a problem with recruiting? Nah, I think it's because the military is woke. I think that might be why you're having an issue with recruiting. Okay, I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, the tenant from hell, an Airbnb guest, has been dubbed the tenant from hell, and she's squatting at this guest house in a mansion for more than 540 days. So, she was supposed to just like spend the night there. You typically spend like a few days at an Airbnb. This woman is staying there 540 days. She's squatting there. This guy, his name is Sasha Yanka or Yaka or Yavenka or Yankovic. And he has a $3.8 million mansion, overlooks Hollywood Hills. It's been hijacked by an unwanted guest. So I have to tell you a little bit about this. On the other side, this is the Morning Buzz. The tenant from hell. She's been squatting at his place for more than 540 days. What? It's an Airbnb guest, and she's been dubbed the tenant from hell. And she's been squatting at this guest house in a mansion for more than 400 or 540 days. It's incredible, the story. This is the Morning Buzz. You guys can always see me live in studio. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We put a lot of work into the stream, so go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. You guys can text me. Text the word BLUE, BLUE, to 309-451-9299 for a chance to win Jared Neiman tickets. You're likely going to win them. So go ahead, text me right now. Jared Neiman tickets. That's October 7th in just a couple of days. You guys can get those tickets by texting the keyword here, BLUE, to 309-451-9299. It's the Back the Badge Fest. It's a fundraiser for our men and women in blue. And this guy, he's the headliner. He's got some really good songs. Tequila Kisses is one of my favorites. So text the word BLUE. So this woman, this tenant. So there's this guy. Let's start with the guy. He's the landlord, I suppose. His name is Sasha, and he has a $3.8 million mansion that overlooks Hollywood Hills. And it's been hijacked by an unwanted guest who refuses to leave after spending more than 540 days in his home, unwanted 540 days in his home, unless she is paid $100,000 for relocation. So he rented this guest house out on, I think it was in September of 2021 is when he rented his Airbnb out to this Elizabeth Hirshhorn is her name, but she just never left. She's never left the Airbnb since September of 2021. He goes, I tried to be a kind host. This is what Sasha says to the Los Angeles Times. He goes, I had no idea she would become what she has become, the tenant from hell. A judge has also ruled that Sasha has no right to evict the tenant under Los Angeles Just Cause Ordinance. What? And he has to pay her a relocation fee in order to remove her. She's squatting in his place. He bought this place, $3.8 million. It's a mansion. And she's staying there in the guest bedroom, I guess. And the judge ruled that he's got no right to evict her. What? She's squatting there. So according to the Los Angeles Times, in an email, Sasha's lawyer, her lawyer, Hirshhorn's lawyer, Amanda Stewart, she argues that $100,000 is the cheapest way of Sasha getting out of this whole ordeal. She says, okay, this is the cheapest way for you to get out of all of this. It's the home of the tenant until the landlord gets a judgment, however distasteful that is to your client. That's what she writes. The girl's attorney writes in an email. She goes, look, tenant, this is her home until you pay this and get her out of there to relocate her. You have to pay $100,000 to relocate her as the landlord. The landlord broke the law and tried to make money by renting out an illegal bootlegged unit. That's what her attorneys say in this email. And it's quite incredible. After he was caught, instead of doing the right thing, he has resorted to bullying, harassment, and filing these frivolous lawsuits containing elaborate false stories, all in an attempt to cover his tracks. An illegal bootlegged unit? What are you talking about? The guy owns the house. It can't be an illegal bootlegged unit if the guy owns the house. He owns it. He paid $3.8 million for it. Get real. So the attorney of Sasha, the guy, the landlord, the attorney of he has a different viewpoint in the whole thing, okay? And he says she's the tenant from hell. If she's right, the theory is that if a landlord has something that isn't permitted, then you can stay there rent-free forever. Squatters' rights. Right? That's what he's saying. It doesn't matter. The city alleged that the guest house shower wasn't up to code, and I'm having trouble finding the part in the Constitution that allows a local government to take your property rights away because the shower isn't up to code. I can't find that in the Constitution. I guess they'll take your property away, and they're claiming that because the shower is not up to code. That's why, like, they have the right to do that. But like, it all doesn't make sense because, the city is saying that the place is unsafe. You would think that they would say, "Hey, this lady has to leave the premises. It's unsafe. The codes are there's construction codes he's violating. You got to get the lady out of there." But they're forcing him to pay all of these fines for these code violations, and then they're still allowing the girl to stay there. The city has also said there's a couple of construction issues that made the building not code compliant. Essentially, that means there may be some safety issues, but rather than force the woman to leave so it could be fixed, they allow her to squat there, and then they refuse uh, to allow Sasha, the landlord, to fix those code issues. So he can't even fix the code issues. They're fining him for the code issues, but they're not allowing him to go in there to fix anything because he's got to do construction and he's trying to get her out of there so he can fix the code violations. It's just so wild. The city of Los Angeles, I'm telling you. I mean, the logic here, there is no logic, and you can't come up with a better example of socialism than this. Sasha has now filed 4 complaints against this woman. This includes the breach of the lease, damages for the crazy tenant cause. He's suing for damages, negligence, and trespassing. So he's filed all of these complaints. The city essentially enabled this crazy woman's behavior by allowing her to stay in the unit, even though they alleged that there were safety concerns with the building. In other words, they're allowing her to live in the building that may impose a safety risk. The level of insanity is astounding here. Progressives basically manipulate the law so that way they can seize a private citizen, somebody's private property, and then redistribute it to some degenerate psycho who has done nothing to deserve it. The guy paid for the house. It's his house. He rented it out via an Airbnb. I just don't understand. This is socialism. I'm going to be back on the other side. We got to take a quick break. David Paul Blumenschein joining me in studio. We're going to have some fun, especially with this news that has come out that labels you a domestic terrorist. Half the country, actually, if you voted for Donald Trump, get ready for your house to be busted in, your door to be knocked down because you're a domestic terrorist, according to the FBI. I'll be back next. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for joining me. And folks, if you voted for Donald Trump, you might want to get some padlocks. Might want to lock up your door at night because who knows, the FBI might just bust in because you're a MAGA extremist. So the FBI has created a category ahead of the 2024 election. They're labeling half of the country domestic terrorists. Defund them. We need to shut them down. Newsweek, they broke the story that the FBI set up this special task force to go after Trump supporters, and nobody's even talking about it. I don't think I'm shocked. I'm not really shocked. David Paul Blumenshine, who joins me in studio here, Scott's Takes is not back yet. We're looking for some equipment, so we're going to get him back as soon as possible. As soon as I know when he'll be back, I'll let you know. But David Paul Blumenshine joining me here, 7:44 a.m. Were you shocked that the FBI created a MAGA extremist category ahead of the 2024 election and not a extreme leftist category? Thoughts, David?
Well, Kat, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, don't let your heart be troubled, as Sean Hannity leads off saying, Obviously, in light of everything going on, we can focus on the government and the corruption and the brokenness of our society right now and realize that, this is the way it's going to trend. I mean, any of us who are faith-believing Christian people know that ain't going to get better. We keep acting like it's going to get better. No, it's pretty simple. It lays it out there. And it's not like something that just came on. It's been going on for a long time. When you allow people who think like Sonny Garcia to run your country, of course and here you have a guy like Sonny Garcia who is openly willing to admit that he hails Satan and that he's part of the Democratic Socialist of America. These people are tyrants. Now, the irony to all of this is they're also J.B. Pritzker supporters. They were out in Franklin Park giving him the rah-rah last year. Now, and J.B. comes on yesterday and says openly what we know is in his heart is that he's the real fascist. Mm-hmm. He's the real extremist. He's the real tyrant. He locked down the state. He does things crimes against humanity, but yet says it's us because parents want to have control over what their children read in a public school system, and that it's not up to the state to determine that they can just openly try to indoctrinate kids with pedophilia and pornography. Alexi Giuliani, his Secretary of State, who he contributed a lot of money to, who's wealthy in his own right, said it was disgusting that Senator Kennedy was reading from Not All Boys Are Blue from the committee meeting, the Senate Judicial Committee meeting, trying to get to the bottom of this, this banning banned books. See, they even like to play word games. So, yes.
It's not even banning. You're taking things off the shelves in the
that aren't age
children's section. So I remember very vividly here in Bloomington, the Bloomington Public Library, and this local radio station puts on their Facebook page, hey, if you were city manager for a day, what would you do? What would be your first action?
Yeah.
And I just posted the photograph so that everybody could see Tim Gleason himself. The pornography that was in the children's section at eye level for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. I was there. It was next to the Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham book. It's called Patience and Esther. You open it up and it's actual pornography. And that's what we're talking. And we're talking about removing that from the shelves and putting it in the adult section on a high shelf.
Yeah.
That's all we're talking about. It's not book banning. We're asking you put it and label it adults only and put it on a high shelf away from the reach of children and not allow children to check out books like that.
I do want to get back to the Trump thing and the state, the police state, which we know we're in. Dinesh D'Souza and Dan Bongino collaborated on a documentary called The Police State. But Shannon Adcott from Wake, Illinois, came out and said this, and it's brilliant, right? Towards JB in response to JB's tirade, because calling everybody else fascist, and which is what this whole Trump thing is calling everybody something other than what your ideology is and belief and where you're trying to move the needle. But Shannon said, We have a proficiency level of reading in our public school system in Illinois right now of below 26%, meaning almost, 7.5 of all children, 7.5 out of all 10 children can't read at grade level. And they are worried about taking a couple picture books out that show people doing things that I don't condemn that in the proper context.
Mhm.
And for me, I don't need picture books. I'm an adult. I'm happily married.
Mhm.
I get it. That's, God ordained marriage and sex within marriage for a couple reasons. I don't know if the people that are espousing all this, as Ronald Reagan said, isn't it amazing the people who are defiant and so outspoken about killing babies in the womb are all alive?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Maybe they weren't, but anyhow, but God created the marriage, and then he created sex between a man and a woman to procreate.
Mhm.
That's how we all got here. Kat,
Yeah.
you got here.
Yep.
Breaking news, Kat.
Former fetus, that's me.
Well, and not only that, Kat, I hope I'm not going out on a limb here, but your parents had intimacy.
Mhm.
That's just part of a married life, a healthy marriage, right? And also part of that is pleasure.
Mhm.
So none of us are saying take out those books. We're saying put those books where adults read them, because children have enough problems on their own just learning the ABCs and how to count to 100 and then to form sentences, right?
Mhm.
And to read out loud.
Yeah.
But
Let's
when you tell us that kids can't even read, a more than a majority of kids can't even read at the level that they're supposed to be reading at, and JB wants to focus on whether
banning books.
keeping genderqueer in
They
the,
can't even read the book, JB.
but they can see the pictures. That's why they went to picture books, JB. And JB, I'm kind of suspicious to see what you have in your library at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of suspicious as well. Oh man. And you brought up the Franklin Park, the Sonny Garcias, the Crystal Labels, they show up and show their support all the time. And, the Trump thing, the way Letitia James looked at Donald Trump in that courtroom, she gives this guy daggers. She gives Donald Trump daggers and just stares this guy
Yeah.
down. I've got a photograph on my phone of MK, Pritzker's wife.
Yeah.
She's staring you and I down when we were protesting JB's arrival at Franklin Park. She's
Some a little
staring
more
us
lively than
both
others.
down. I'm gonna have to post this and I'll circle her face, and you'll see this woman, and this woman is just RBF. Look that
Yes.
up. It's RBF, and she
As
is
you
just
can imagine, let's set the stage a little bit though. DPB is there with his t-shirt or shirt on. I think I had a polo shirt on, repping Darren Bailey and Stephanie Trussell.
Mhm.
And I'm standing back near the union guys who were obviously told they had to be there. They didn't have a choice. And Kat Peterson has a placard card that says Bailey for governor and her red Bailey shirt on. And she is literally jumping up and down and showing her poster, and some guy's trying to move his placard card that says JB in front of hers so it doesn't get.
I remember his breath.
From back
Out of everything from that day, I remember this guy's breath. He gets in my face and he screams at me, and I don't know, I think he calls me little girl or something like that. And he goes, "You got to get out of here. You're not allowed to be here."
It's a public park.
And I just remember his breath. He goes, "This is my husband." And he made it very clear that he was. I didn't ask, bro.
Okay.
Okay. It doesn't
Good
matter.
for you. All right. And guess what? He's the same. This is, like I said, this is the same mindset.
It is. Well,
where they have to tell you virtue, identity. It doesn't have anything to do with the person's character, who they are. And what we're saying is we don't agree with the character. I know that they're going to push back and say, well, Donald Trump, he's not a virtuous person. Okay, well, nobody's a virtuous person. Nobody reaches the level of virtue.
Except Jesus.
Except Jesus. And yes, thank you for Phil.
Except Jesus.
Except Jesus. Yeah, I mean, so we're going to lock up everybody or investigate everybody, or I'm sure, my participating in a patriotic and a peaceful rally in DC on J6 versus what went on there just a couple days ago with Jamal Bowman pulling the fire alarm and the Sunrise organization actually taking the Capitol by storm. Nobody hears these stories. Once again, Newsweek broke the story. It's not like we're telling you something from the American Spectator or the Conservative Review. This is Newsweek. And they're openly saying, and they're challenging people, but people just keep going on about their way. This is where I think that the engineered food has actually caused a trance for these people.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, what? How in the world do you still believe this stuff? You're a little sheep. All right, we do have to take a break. You're listening to the Morning Buzz on Cities 92.9. David and I will be back next. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz, and we've only got about a minute left, and then we're going to get into the 8 o'clock hour. But first, I do want to talk about the DC rumor scoop with David Paul Blumenshine, who joins me in studio. You can see David in studio with me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Here's the DC scoop, and DC Drano shared this, and I was like,
All right.
I gasped. I was like, what? No,
Old
this
DC.
could not be it.
DC Drano, an attorney. He's an attorney. That's his profession. Go ahead.
So Kevin McCarthy let Nancy Pelosi and this ex-majority leader, Steny Hoyer, to keep their exclusive hideaway offices. Well, now DC Drano is hearing that it's because Kevin McCarthy made a secret deal with Nancy Pelosi, and she guaranteed that there would be enough Democrat votes for Kevin McCarthy if a motion to vacate were to happen or if it was to ever come up. Well, a vote to vacate happened, and he didn't have enough Dem votes. So that means Pelosi must have backstabbed him and didn't give Kevin McCarthy the vote. So Patrick McHenry, the interim speaker, was retaliating against Nancy Pelosi and Hoyer here because and outs them from their offices out of retaliation. This is what happens when you deal with the devil. David Paul, I want your reaction on the other side. on the other side.
I'm gonna bring it, Kat.
Gonna bring it. 8:06 a.m. We'll come back. That's when
Matt
we're gonna be
Gaetz
coming
said.
back.
Or no, that's what Kevin McCarthy said to Matt Gaetz. Bring it. He did.
He did. All right. That's next on the buzz. Come back. So before we took the break, I was telling my good friend David Paul Blumenshine about something I came across on Twitter. It was DC Drano, and he brought up this idea that Kevin McCarthy made this secret deal with Nancy Pelosi. Hey, I'll let you keep your office, Nancy, if you get me the Democrat votes that I need if I were to ever come across this motion to vacate the speakership. And well, looks like Nancy Pelosi probably backstabbed him if that deal was made, because guess who's vacated from the speakership? That's Kevin McCarthy. He didn't have the Dem votes, and Pelosi was supposed to solidify those votes for him. She was supposed to whip those votes and make the Dems vote for Kevin McCarthy to stay in that speakership, but turns out they didn't. And now Patrick McHenry, I think that the reason why he's going after Nancy Pelosi so hard in this office and getting her to get out of this office, it's because it's out of retaliation. These people are so silly. David, what happens when you make deals with the devil?
Yeah, it's broken. Yeah, you
Mhm.
make deals with the devil, you pay the devil's price. You know, Kat, this is not rare. What is happening, what we're seeing in DC has finally been exposed, and it truly did start January 6th. Mike Pence was part of this game.
Mhm.
So many are part of this game. Ron DeSantis, unfortunately, one of the best governors in the United States, decided to get involved with this establishment swampy organization, the deep state. See, people don't understand. I love how they call it Megan Republicans. They're really not mega Republicans. They're just mega people, because they really aren't Republicans.
Yeah.
And that's what our local Republican Party has found out, our state Republican Party. The people who support Trump really don't support the Republican Party,
Mm.
because they've deemed them what they are, swamp creatures. They're all part of this thing. I don't care who they are. The names really don't matter. Even locally, I could name some names here on air because we've entertained those people before.
Mhm.
But we don't quite do it anymore, because once again, most of those guys have moved on
Mhm.
from politics, but they were part of the problem, running up unmanageable debts, not balancing the budget, and telling us the budget is balanced, according to them, even though the Auditor General says it's not. So bottom line is this, Kat, and what DC Jarino is pointing out is they're all crooks.
They're all crooks.
They're not there for us.
No. And they're weak. So Pelosi, she impeached Trump twice, was it?
Yes.
She also, I remember Rodney Davis, one of those guys, he was actually fighting for the GOP to have some sort of representation on the January 6th committee. I don't think that there should have been a January 6th committee at all.
No.
And we should have been fighting for that.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know
Yeah.
why we would be fighting for Republicans to
Yeah.
sit.
How we let them play their games.
Yeah.
They dictate all the rules.
Yes, well, she wouldn't even let the GOP pick up representatives for the J6 committee. One, there shouldn't have even been a J6 committee. If you were a Republican at that time when they were building this J6 committee, you should have said, "Screw you. There is no insurrection."
Unless you're Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. And then little boy Blue is going to get up there and cry for you.
Yes. I love the actual Adam Kinzinger
Beta
appears.
boy.
Beta boy.
Beta boy.
But she didn't allow the GOP to pick representatives to sit on that January 6th committee. She removed.
And for those people that are out there going, David Paul, you're so harsh on the Republicans, spare me. They don't represent you.
Mhm.
And if you want to coronate them, or if you want to put little special ribbons around them, give me a break. We're $32 trillion in debt. In Illinois, it's a disaster. JB continues to call you a fascist and a racist.
Mhm.
If you decide that you want to do what's morally and ethically right for your children. I mean, when are you folks going to wake up to this?
He'll call you a xenophobe.
I know most of you that listen to the Morning Buzz are awake on this, but bottom line is, are you not sick of what they're doing yet?
I'm sick of it. And it's like Pritzker calling you a xenophobe over the Goshen battery maker plant. And I mean, this is not even a CCP backed. So it's misleading to call it a CCP backed company.
Mr. I was
is
caught on an
a
FBI line with Rod Blagojevich trying to buy the U.S. Senate seat. I take toilets out of my mansion. Good thing he didn't have one of those squatters from LA in there that, yeah, but don't worry. As soon as he was caught, he wrote the check for $300,000.
See,
As soon as he's caught with the unconstitutional mandates of masking and vaxxing, he quickly moves on. They never say they're sorry. They never repent. Isn't that interesting, Kat?
mhm.
What is a characteristic of a Christian person?
No.
Now, I get it. I understand that JB doesn't profess to be a Christian. He is a Jew.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I
he's
guess
Jewish,
a
and
Jew.
and that's okay. But even Jewish people,
Believe in God.
well, they do, and I think they believe in repentance to some degree.
Mhm.
I mean,
He doesn't repent.
forget the religious factor of it. Saying you're sorry isn't something just for people of faith.
Mhm.
I think that well, maybe not. I don't know.
He 100% has no remorse, and I think that he will not stop until the propaganda is just fueled into people's phones. I mean, every morning I look at JB tweets and I'm thinking to myself, this guy needs to be held accountable for the propaganda he's pushing out there because it's just lies. It's so clear that it's lies. The Chicago being the best city in the nation, that's a lie. You will die if you go into Chicago, into certain areas if you're there past a certain time. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
just
there's a good chance. I'm
there's
not
a good
saying you're
chance.
going to. I mean, my good friend Darren Bailey spent some time in that area.
Mhm.
I mean, during their stops on the west side of Chicago, they literally rolled up on crime scenes where there were mass shootings.
And incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And he can get out there and push this propaganda that it's totally fine, totally safe, just go there. What? And then he can push this propaganda and lie and say that there isn't a mass exodus from
Illinois.
Illinois,
Yeah.
although the US Census data proves him wrong. He just continues to lie, lie, lie. And then the media, they don't say he's lying. They just say Pritzker doesn't agree with US Census data.
He doesn't agree with it.
Yeah,
But,
or that it
but the
the US
backfill,
contradicts what JB Pritzker says. No, call it out.
being a sanctuary state allows us to backfill. So you see what the play is right now. I mean, they don't hide what they're doing. I mean, they're bringing people in here who are not documented, or you can term them illegal. And now we're suddenly going to give them rights that you and I have, because citizenry should be something that you just get once you enter the country. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be, according to the left?
Yeah,
That's what they want. They just
something
want
new.
everybody to be a citizen. So you can backfill, right? You can backfill the votes. If those people can get on a license and they can get the motor voter registration, motor
Mhm,
voter registration, and they can get on the list, even though they might not be citizens of the United States, they now have a right to vote,
mhm.
cast a vote, cast a
Well,
ballot.
and we saw it with the Ford company. So there's this company, it's in Chicago Heights. It got shut down. I think it
Mhm.
was like, oh gosh, 300 odd something workers that were laid off. And this isn't like they produce cars, it's just they produce parts for cars. But there's no need for the parts for cars because there's no people assembling the cars because the UAW strikes. Okay, so this is like a ripple effect. And these people have left those jobs. This American company, they've left those jobs, that they're laid off. And then he's going to say, "Oh, well, this Goshen company coming into Mantino, 2,600 jobs." So what we're doing with EVs, these EV productions, we're not helping these UAW workers. We're not bailing out. We're going to provide $8 billion to this Goshen via taxpayer money
Yep.
to this Goshen CCP. They are the CCP. They're not even backed by the CCP.
Yeah.
According to their own bylaws, they say everything we do is for the party.
Yeah.
That's what the party bylaws, or their bylaws in the company says. It says everything we're supposed to do.
The company names the Chinese Communist Party in their bylaws.
Yes, and says that we should be focused on furthering the cause of the party. That's
Yeah.
what the bylaw says. And we're focused on that. And these are 2,600 jobs. So we've got American jobs. We've got jobs that are good, people being laid off from those jobs, those people are laid off, they're probably going to leave the state. What's keeping them here?
Yeah.
There's no job keeping them here. So they're going to leave the state. And we're going to bring in all of these other jobs that are not going to be filled by Americans. They're going to be filled by the illegal immigrants. They're going to be filled by people who are not citizens. And we can see that because the unemployment rate is so high in comparison to last year. It's increased since last year. You can create all the CCP jobs you want, JB.
Well, JB, I think it's an honor that you call me a mega extremist because you're right. I side with America. I don't side with the Chinese, the Ukrainians, the Russians. I side with America. And I side with the Constitution, which unfortunately to date, JB, you have shown us and that you don't. You don't side with the people either, JB, really. All of the shell games that you play with people's lives, they don't impact you. You love to play. You love to put yourself out there and say how much it is that you represent the people. It isn't the people, JB. It's the power. Same thing you were doing on the recorded line with the Rod Blagojevich.
It's the power for these people. We're going to be back here on The Morning Buzz. If you guys want to see us live in studio, that's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. See us there. And we're going to continue our conversation. One thing that I wanted to talk about was this Joe Biden and the $9 billion in student loan forgiveness. We called this out because we've received emails from folks that show that the Biden administration has already given student loan debt relief.
Yes.
So he's pushing this $9 billion in student loan forgiveness after the Supreme Court already rejected that debt relief plan.
Yes.
So we're going to come back next, talk a little bit about that. Good morning. And are you going to vote for Joe Biden now? Now that he's bought your vote with this $9 billion extra of student loan forgiveness after the Supreme Court said, Joe, you can't do that. We're going to reject your student loan debt relief plan. It's unconstitutional. You can't do it, Joe. He turns around and does it anyway. Joining me in studio, David Paul Blumenshine. He's got a show Sunday from 1 to 3. You can see us live in studio. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to our channels of the DPB show on YouTube and Cat Peterson 929 on YouTube. David, so we actually got to our newsroom a letter way back when, and it details out the student loan forgiveness and why you're receiving it, and it's signed the Biden administration and Kamala Harris.
Yes, it's from Joe and Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
They want to let you know that they personally went and made it so that you did not have to pay your student loans back, and thank them because they wrote the check.
Yeah. So I'll quote it
the
here.
check on your checking account.
It says, not all your federal student loans may be listed in the letter delivered within your account, as you may have begun repaying each loan on a different date. So these are part of these this American Rescue Plan Act. They say that due to the American Rescue Plan Act, the balance of your loans were forgiven and is not considered taxable income.
No,
or federal. So it's not even taxable.
No.
So it's not considered income.
Well, no, Kat. So so our listeners kind of get it, and I think they understand this. We've got savvy listeners. You get this, right? Mortgage, or I should say, student loan interest is something you deduct on your tax return, just like mortgage interest deductions, student loan interest deductions. Those are allowed by the Internal Revenue Service. So for a lot of the people that they forgave those loans, those people paid back what they borrowed.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
It's just they're paying on that interest.
It's just the interest. It's they were the way they structured these student loans through Fannie and Freddie or Sally Mac. I got to think.
Mac?
Well, there's Freddie.
Yeah.
There's different housing deals with Sally. It's Sally. It's Sally Mac. These are agencies that are put forward. And once again, I'm not so versed in it. I know a little bit about it, enough to be able to say, and I don't know if you are aware of this, that there was a federal loan organization dedicated to student loans. And so it was just more bureaucracy, building, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this was all part of the play. Grow universities. They are petri plates for indoctrination of the liberal mindset. It took them a while to get there. At first, you're right. Universities were for the wealthy. It took a lot to be in a university. So they wanted to open, as J.B. Pritzker will tell us over and over to a point where you just get nauseated by it, that everybody should have an opportunity.
Yeah.
For higher education.
I've even got it here on X, Twitter. That's what he goes. I promised you that the Biden administration would continue to use every tool at their disposal to ease the burden of student loan debt, so more Americans can be free to achieve their dreams. That's what Biden wrote on Twitter.
Well, what we're seeing, Kat, and not to get, like I said, we can get caught up in the details. Don't get caught up in the details. This is just really simple. They believe government is the future and the solution to all your problems. People like us, we believe the free market. We believe that, going out, hard work, all the farmers are out there right now during this harvest season, bringing in what they have sown. They sowed the seed. Now they reap the harvest. And unfortunately, sometimes that harvest isn't exactly what they thought they were going to get. Other times it surprises them, right? But they've done the work.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing too, is, the White House, they're saying that, all of this money is going to these borrowers, and I get that, but I don't want to pay for Karen's gender studies career or career.
Yeah.
I really don't want to. And
Well, I don't
I'm
think
not
there's
included in
I don't know
any
if there's
of this.
really a career in gender studies, but I'm sure she's employable somewhere. And right now, there's plenty of places that are looking for help.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter the type of degree you got, it doesn't matter at all, you're gonna get that student loan debt forgiven, and, they're inflating the economy even more, so it's like a snake chasing its tail or eating its tail,
Hmm.
where it just is this endless cycle of you're inflating the economy with all of this spending, $9 billion plus more, it's $9 billion additionally. So, I think the total what was the total before this?
39 billion.
39 billion.
Yeah. So now we're up to $48 billion, and it's including 925,000 borrowers.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and that's even structured, Cat. It's aged business. So once again, just like it's writing off of the books, people, even though, well, once again, let's be clear, a lot of those people paid off in full the amount that they borrowed. It was the interest, the accrual of interest that just consumed them. They could never get ahead of it.
Yeah.
And probably because the employment that they received couldn't sustain the loans that they had taken out.
Mm.
And this is the trap that some people get into. But don't worry, we have Janet Yellen and Robert Reich.
Sleeping on the button that
You know,
prints the money.
they'll tell you how wonderful all of these programs are and how they're going to be they're going to make the world a better place. You know, if liberal ideas and solutions worked, as Dan Bongino says, then why aren't they working?
Then why aren't they working? Yep, you're exactly right, and I just can't believe that he's got this out. I guess, even on top of that, the Supreme Court struck it down. So he's just saying, "Screw you" to the Supreme Court? Can he even do this?
Wait a second. The cat, come on. Our audience is already they're saying cat. We get it. JB does it. Our local government does it.
Mhm.
The White House does it. They don't follow the protocol of the Constitution of the United States. Mark Levin has written a book called Democrats Hate America for a reason.
Mhm. Democrats hate America.
Because
Mark
they
Levin.
don't believe in the Constitution. They will tell you they believe in the Constitution. They believe in the living Constitution, meaning they want to change it according to what fits their narrative. That's
Yeah.
not how the program works.
Mm-mm.
It hasn't worked. Now, you have, through the Constitution, the ability to change it if you would like, but you have to legislate that. And right now, knowing that everybody in D.C. is on the dole, including Speaker McCarthy, it appears that, he was cutting deals behind the scene, which I get it. This is what these people do. That's why they call them the swamp.
They're swamp creatures.
There's very few people who represent you and I.
Mike Bost isn't one of them, and we gotta take a break, and I'm gonna read for you what he posted on Twitter, and it's incredible because
Yeah.
he's saying that the government's not functioning and blah, 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 and that there's a breach or there's gonna be a risk to national security if we don't, elect a speaker right away, and we shouldn't have ousted Kevin McCarthy, right, of course, because Mike Bost is a weak, weak man. We're going to talk about his statement, plus I do wanna talk about what is actually a risk to national security. That would be the Army recruiting goals not being met.
Mhm.
That's an actual risk to national security. Waiting on the speaker.
Not with the marketing campaign they have. You compare and contrast the two marketing campaigns for the armed services. One from Russia, where these guys are bulletproof,
Yeah.
Rangers, and then you have this flowery little lady that says, "Oh, I wanted to be two moms and everything else." Okay, you had to tell us two moms. Just go to the Army.
Just go to the Army.
Go to the boot camp.
I don't know what
I don't
China
need
and
to know who your
Russia
moms are.
waiting for, but man, I'm telling you right now, they are looking at us and they're saying, we could take them out in a second.
Well, they don't have to wait. JB's giving them money, $8 billion.
$1 billion.
Just
Yep.
to have a battery plant.
Yep. We're going to be back here on The Buzz. This is Cities 92.9. Look, you're weak, you're corrupt. I'm sorry, Kevin McCarthy. She removed Republicans from committees. She didn't allow the GOP to pick representatives to serve on the J6 committee. And McCarthy says that the reason why he let Nancy Pelosi stay in her hideaway office there was because he wanted to preserve tradition. She did everything but tradition. Okay, you are a weak, corrupt man. But Mike Boss just loves you. And David Paul Blumenshine right over there joining me here on the Morning Buzz. I've got to read this, and we're going to bring on a very special guest.
All
I
right.
got to read what Mike Boss put up on his social media page. I couldn't believe it. Folks, we are live, YouTube.
Besides
Facebook.
the fact that he's pinned his endorsement from President Trump from 2022. I don't know if that really applies. Mike might keep that up for a while, but go ahead, Kat.
Like, I don't know. This is very clear where you stand. So he goes, for those who are celebrating what occurred in the House yesterday, Congress is now non-functional.
You give yourself way too much credit, Mike.
I don't mean functioning poorly or focused on the wrong agenda. I mean, it's literally not functioning. The fight to secure our southern border, restore fiscal sanity, and hold the Biden family accountable through impeachment inquiry has all come to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
Cry harder. Then he goes, on top of all of that.
How are we going to survive?
I know. He goes, the vacancy of speaker poses a risk to our national security and leaves us vulnerable to our adversaries. I think spending $135 billion on Ukraine to prop up their small businesses and to prop up the hat shops over there, I think that's a risk to our national security. But then he goes on and he says, don't listen to the failed political candidates sitting on the sidelines telling you that this is great for our country. And
I wonder who he's talking about.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz, is that what he's talking about?
No, he's talking about Darren.
Is he talking about? I love it. Darren Bailey joining us on the line. Darren, thoughts on Mike Boss's recent post here? He's crying. He's kind of moaning and whining.
Good morning. Yeah, you're right. These people have nothing new to say. David Paul made a comment that, there is no problem, or ultimately they believe they are still the solution. Yeah. And people like him have been in office for 30 years. He is the one that ushered in the reality that when I show up in 2019, I show up the first time ever in this super minority with Republicans, because Republicans for 20 years before did absolutely nothing, just like they're doing nothing in D.C. Who would have thought that Nancy Pelosi was still holding her office? I mean, I found that is detestable. Yeah. But yeah, this is what they do. I'll tell you what. You Google his name, you know what comes up? They've really been pushing the last few days a temper tantrum that he threw on the House floor in Springfield 10 years ago. That's the only thing this man has accomplished or is known for. He threw a temper tantrum. He got nothing done during his tenure. That propelled him to D.C., and here we are in this mess. If we had Republicans truly working for us in Springfield and D.C., we wouldn't see a state and a nation crumbling.
In decline.
So the Speaker had his opportunity. He had he had 9 months. 9 months. That's and didn't live up to one single promise.
We are, as President Trump says, we are a nation in decline. But Darren, you and I have talked about this many times over. When are we going to come to the realization that the people who have created the $32 trillion in debt federally, or the billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars here in the state of Illinois, are going to be the people who come up with the solutions to fix it? They have no desire to fix anything. In fact, that's what I think the Nancy Pelosi thing is about. It's gamemanship. That is the definition of the swamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Darren, I wanted to ask you, the Zelensky thing, I just can't get over it. That this guy actually did send $3 billion very recently via a supplement aid package to Ukraine. And then
you will
all
not
of a
let
sudden,
that go, will you, Kat?
No, because it's your record. It's your record. And he's coming out and he's saying, he goes, we got to stop funding to Ukraine. Bro, you voted for it. What are you talking about? This is insanity. And I can't believe that they lie like this. And it's insanity.
And she really doesn't drink much coffee in the morning, Darren.
No, not that much. It's insanity.
I love her.
Well, and here's the thing. Zelensky, they're calling, make America great again, Republicans, domestic terrorists. We have a president over in Ukraine who has actually threatened terrorism in Western Europe using his own people. He said that, hey, there's no telling what these Ukrainian refugees in your country are going to do if you stop giving us aid. This is why do you think Joe Biden is so quick? I mean, he came out right away and he's saying, don't worry, Ukraine, we're going to be providing you funding. I mean, is Ukraine calling the shots here or what?
Nope, that's the sad part. This solution, the only solution, I mean, you deal with a spoiled, rotten kid. Let's take a look at J.B. Pritzker. It's always money. You just continue to dole out money. I'm confident, that probably exemplifies how he was raised because that's how he's living. And likewise, as today, if our only solutions are handing out money towards problems, well, then we're in a lot worse trouble than we believe. And I keep pleading with Adam Niemer and I go around to communities and for petition signing events and talking to people. People are losing hope, and we cannot lose hope because the only way that we can turn this around is when people show up and vote these rhinos, these players who are, have embedded themselves for a career. They have nothing to go back to. They don't know how to work. They don't know how to manage a business. They don't want to go back. They want to stay in these comfy positions and cost money at the problems while it destroys our nation because, and families we cannot continue doing what we're doing. It is destroying business. It's destroying the family. It is destroying the idea of the American dream. Because now everyone, people expect handouts, and we've got politicians, and the president and the governor who are more than willing to lay those handouts out. And until we have men and women who truly stand up, call this out, and just like what is taking place in D.C. right now, a complete overhaul.
Yes.
A complete overhaul. It's not working. So change it. It doesn't matter. Yes, it sure is frustrating that this couldn't have been taken care of in the past 9 months. It sure is frustrating that, Leader McCarthy allowed or demanded a vacation for the entire month of August and the first week of September. It's really frustrating that these people are not taking their responsibility. The greatest nation in the earth, it's a shame they're not taking their responsibility serious.
Hey, Darren.
And instead, just watching it burn.
You should mandate that tomorrow. Tell everybody on the Bailey Farms it's going. You know what? This is not the ideal time to take a month off, but we're going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
How does that work for the farmer in today's harvest season?
Right. Well, it's raining today, and I guarantee you we've been putting in some long hours, and people would like to go home and get some rest. But guess what? We've got to fix things. We've got things that are broken on the farm, and we've got to fix them because as soon as it stops raining, we're going to be back in the fields again. So
that's why we need a farmer in Congress. We need somebody that knows how to fix things, who knows how to work hard days. I mean, I love the little video that was done about, and then God, on the 8th day, God made a farmer. And and they were able to put that together with you because that is your plight, is about the people. Darren, I don't know if we should break the news to you because I know that you're very busy on the campaign trail, but just in case you didn't hear, anybody that has an affiliation with President Donald J. Trump has now been deemed, according to Newsweek, a domestic terrorist.
A domestic terrorist.
Wow. No, I have not heard that. I've been up early this morning at the farm, and I've not caught up on that. This is what we're dealing with.
And nobody's covering it, Darren. Nobody's covering it.
Wow. I'll look that up. I was not aware of that. Yeah. Wow.
So, Darren, real quick, I saw that you had put out a press release and you had said that you're supporting Jim Jordan for the speakership. What do you think about and President Donald Trump for the presidency? So you don't think that Donald Trump would make a great speaker?
Well, I've seen conflicting reports. It was my understanding when I put that out that he had declined it and said he wasn't interested. I've seen those reports that suggest that he was, but no, I would love nothing better than for President Trump to be in that position, I would absolutely love it. And I think he'd be the right person.
He's got a country to save, which he can do through his campaign. There's no way. I mean, I find it interesting, and that's great. And I understand the play that people think that this could really propel him. But you know what,
Right.
Darren, we need him in the presidency, because with the authority of executive orders, we can do away with a lot of this on day one.
Exactly.
He can go in just like Darren could have done as the governor of Illinois. We could have gone in and totally, scorched earth, which is what needs to happen. Sometimes you got to burn the land before it comes back green.
Right.
Well, thanks so much, Darren.
Let him promote the event. Don't let him off here.
Yeah,
he's got a big event coming up on October 27th.
We do. Donald Trump Jr. is coming to Effingham on Friday evening, October 27th. Go to BaileyForIllinois.com to secure your tickets. You'll get, every ticket comes with a $100 Letters to Trump book. It is going to be an amazing event. So we got lots of participation levels, and BaileyForIllinois.com. Show up, support us, send me to D.C., and I guarantee you Illinois will be heard.
Well, I know there'll be a lot more to hear about here in the coming days, Darren. So we look forward to getting you back on the radio.
Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.
You take care.
Folks, we're going to be back. It's drizzling out there, but we have got some hot news for you on the other side. Darren Bailey, big thank you to him for coming on. We're going to be back. David Paul Blumenshine and I wrapping up the show. This is The Morning Buzz. It's been a packed show, folks. This is the Morning Buzz. So, did you hear, David Paul, that Aaron Rodgers called Travis Kelce something? Mr. Pfizer.
Mr. Pfizer.
You know, I can't decide if Taylor Swift is going to be the reason why his heart breaks or the vaccine. Travis Kelce. Either way, I think his heart is just going to be destroyed. Now, the vaccine might do it through myocarditis, or Taylor Swift might do it after she breaks up with him. But I can't decide what one is going to come first.
I think what an entertaining world we live in. You know, folks, keep your eyes on, don't get caught up in all this craziness. You know, this is the culture, and it's a distraction. But Kat, I do appreciate this. It is funny. Aaron Rodgers is having a tit and tat for tat back with Kelce, and Kelce, you know, is one of these young men who is driven by the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is why he's the spokesperson for Pfizer. He's a spokesperson for Bud Light.
He's not Tim Tebow by any means.
No.
Yeah.
And he which is, you know, tragic. I'm telling you right now, if he doesn't fall on that football field, and gosh, I pray that does not happen to him, because that's tragic, and we've seen that happen.
The Buffalo Bills
player
that, you know, and once again, they don't know the extent of that. We never really heard too much more outside of Delmar, right? Delmar was his name.
Yeah.
I mean, literally collapsed on the field. And they perform at such a high rate, and we don't know the extent of the safety data. It was never released. We still are just going on to get along, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, nothing to see here, because we left that behind.
Mm-hmm. Jamie Foxx, celebrities just dropping, and
we don't know the extent. We're finding more and more out every day. Obviously, the Cochrane report has given us a lot of insight to the masking of wearing wearing face coverings that restrict our breathing. There's just a whole lot out there, and it's why we should ask questions. But good for Rodgers. I don't think Rodgers is a pure blood, is what I'm taking.
Yeah, no, he's not a big fan of Big Pharma or the Fauci ouchie. So
the Fauci ouchie.
The Fauci ouchie.
At least he didn't call him you know, Dr. Fucci or something like that. You know, as I don't know, Mr. Pfizer.
Mr. Pfizer. I think that's pretty funny.
That is funny.
Go Aaron Rodgers. Well, we have to go. That's the end of the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. David Paul.
Yes.
For joining me here
Kat,
on The Buzz.
Don't let your hearts be troubled. I love it. That's going to be my new theme. I know Sean Hannity coins that, and we got Glenn Beck coming up next.
We sure do. Bye-bye, folks. Love you.